This is a support video for SSP5105 Port 1 Group Report. The previous video outlined the overall group report introduction, so the entire project will be a 5,000 word report inclusive of your peer and self-review. The group report element is 4,000 word effort. We'll have the initial introduction, which we've outlined in the previous videos, a concept section, which was outlined in the previous videos. This video will focus on the customer element. And this will then lead on to subsequent videos looking at competition cost and the overall broader resources. To remind you, throughout the module, we've been focused on what is the value proposition, the concept and the offer, and then that relationship with a particular customer segment. So this section needs to clearly outline the customer segments that you're prioritizing will be the end users for this service, idea, product, whether that be an app or an activity. And you need to build a clear segmentation profile of these customer groups. So here I'm looking for some specifics. So it's that answering that question of who our customers are, what relationships we're likely to build, and very briefly in this section, what channels they would prefer for us to communicate with them through, and how they're going to buy this product or service. To remind you, we've been talking about the product lifecycle, and this is important that we understand that, first of all, in this product development stage, that we are clearly identifying this new service idea or product will be of benefit and of interest, or will solve problems for our customer groups, and that's what I'm looking for in this section. A clear articulation of who they are and why the service, idea or product will be beneficial to them. And again, in taking this work forward into your subsequent modules, this knowledge and understanding and consumer profiling will then help us decide what we'll do with marketing and communications later down the planning cycle, which will help us drive sales. We've talked about how the customer can present a failure point, and if we overestimate or underestimate who they are, how many there are. So I'm looking for, in this section, clear articulation of the customer profile, customer segment. You can use the work from Sport England and Sport Wales, and I'm also looking for you to potentially access other information to help build that profile in terms of the size of the market. So Office of National Statistics, census data, use of specific clear identified trends and activities of that particular group using Statista or Mintel as sources via our MetSearch resources. You can access those via the database section on MetSearch. So in terms of customer segments, I'm particularly interested in you introducing this section and articulating how many you're talking, what profiles you're going to be talking about, whether it's a specific profile around an age group, a gender profile, are you going to do children and adults? So I want a clear introduction to this subsection about who, and then I want you to tackle each of those customer segments in turn. So in your introduction, are you going for a clear mass market, a niche market, segmentation market, and outline who they are? When you're building each of those profiles, I want you to clearly articulate and again use source materials. It might be other segmentation tools like Sport England, Sport Wales as a start point. And I want you to be able to build a picture. If you're not going to use those, then I would like you to use as many resources as possible from those other sites, as in Statista or Mintel. Careful to cite anything you use from those sites appropriately. So, for example, if you're using Statista, it's actually the source on the statistical information that may pop up in your search, not Statista itself that you will be citing. So sometimes you might need to look at the final detail on the reports or the PowerPoint slides that you're accessing. And I'd like you to include some of those trends and graphics in the report if it's going to enhance the section. As I've said in previous videos, this is a report, not an essay, so it's okay to include the information in the main text area, and you need to consider how that will look and how you're going to lay that out in terms of content and structure. I want you to ensure that in this section you consider the customer relationships as well. So the bulk of the section will be about who the customers are, how many there of those customers that are available to us in the marketplace. Specifically, the key issues, you're building a profile around them. So those issues around pains and gains that we've previously looked at in subsequent lectures and seminars. Who are they? What drives them? What are their motivations? What are they interested in? Just building that, using those customer empathy tools that we've used a couple of times in class to actually to build that profile. What are their pains and what are their gains? Why is your service potentially or product going to solve their annoyances or their barriers to further participation? Or if we know that there are things that they like, because we've researched that when you build their profiles, then we can cite those trends and make sure that comes through in the initial profiles we put together. In this section as well, as we start moving beyond the profiles, then I'd like you to consider how your service will build a relationship, or your product will build a relationship with the customer. So are you looking for your app or your website, for example, to be self-service because you know through research that your target groups are quite comfortable with these specific areas? Or are you adding in personal dedicated service because you know that is a real concern for your areas of pain for your customers, and you've made that choice because you've found research to support that they actually do like speaking to people and they like dedicated services? This is down to your choices, but I'd like a clear subsection in this particular discussion on customers on how and what you're doing to build relationships with them. And again, we're not writing a marketing plan here, but a clear paragraph on how you are going to communicate with these customers to potentially sell your app. The marketing plan will come later when you study that module in the next term. This will also require you to ensure that any assumptions or propositions you're making about these communications and touch points are fully supported with robust and contemporary evidence. Again, communication and marketing can suffer if you're using very dated research, even as far back as even 2012 is probably way outdated in modern communication terms. So I want you to consider, and again, research what is the best way to communicate with your customer groups, present robust contemporary evidence. If you're going to say social media, I need to see 2018, 2019 trends to say which and why. And that can be both sourced from Statista or Mintel in terms of Ofcom data, or research from peer-reviewed journals. So in summary, you need to introduce who your markets are they niche or they mass. Then you need to build profiles around your customers. Those profiles need to estimate how many there are with clear evidence. You need to then build profiles about who they are and what they like, and use the Sport England, Sport Wales segmentation profiles to see some examples. You haven't got a huge word count, so I want it to be short, sharp, and I want to feel as the manager that I understand how many there are, who they are, what they like, what they don't like, why is this going to enhance our service for them. We can then carry on the conversation to some of these other areas about market growth and ease of market entry and competition profitability, all those things in the next section. This report isn't a business plan. This report is about setting the foundations for our business ideas. And in that sense, this section should just outline our target, who they are, how many they are, and why our service is going to be beneficial. Then those final paragraphs around the relationships that we're going to build with them and why that will work, so make sure you have evidence, and how we're going to communicate with them, and again, why and how with supportive evidence.